Within months it became clear that the battle had been raging for 6 hours when Dr. Hyunjin Choi made the discovery that would change everything. Working from her laboratory aboard the science vessel Discovery, she had been analyzing the quantum communication patterns between Drakari bioships. The hive mind operated on frequencies that most species couldn't even detect, let alone understand. But humans had spent decades studying their own neural networks and quantum consciousness. Theories. Admiral Park, I need to speak with you immediately. Choi transmitted from her lab, surrounded by displays showing wave patterns and neural activity maps. Admiral Jiwon Park's image appeared on the communication screen, her uniform torn and bloodied, from a hull breach on the Indomitable Spirits Bridge. The battle was not going well. Despite their tactical advantages, the humans were being worn down by sheer numbers. What do you have, Doctor? I've been monitoring the Drakari communication network, Choi explained, pulling up her analysis. They share consciousness through quantum entanglement, but there's something else. They've never encountered individual consciousness before. Every species they've fought has been either hive-minded like them or cooperative enough to be predictable. Get to the point, Doctor. I have a battle to fight. Choi leaned forward, her eyes bright with scientific excitement and tactical possibility. We can hurt them psychologically, not their ships, their minds. If we broadcast human neural patterns into their network, we can introduce concepts they've never experienced. Individual rage, personal defiance, the will to fight alone against impossible odds. Park paused, considering the implications. You want to give them our emotions? Specifically, our warrior emotions. The feelings that make humans charge machine, gun nests and hold hopeless positions. The psychological states that let individual soldiers stand against entire armies. The Admiral looked at her tactical display, where red enemy contacts still outnumbered blue friendly forces by almost 3-1. They had hurt the Drakari badly, but the bioships were adapting to human tactics. Soon, numerical superiority would overcome even Deathworld advantages. How do we do it? I need volunteers, Choi said. Marines who've been in the worst fighting. Combat veterans who've experienced the kind of individual fury that makes humans dangerous. We record their neural patterns during combat memories and broadcast them directly into the hive mind. Within minutes, volunteer Marines were connecting to Dr. Choi's experimental equipment. Lieutenant Jisoo Nam was the first, her squad having survived 3 bioship boarding actions. She lay back in the neural scanner while Choi's machines recorded her brain patterns. Think about the worst fight you've been in, Choi instructed. Not the fear or the pain, but the anger. The moment when you decided you'd rather die fighting than give up. Nam closed her eyes and remembered the bioship command center where she had faced the Drakari consciousness. The moment when she realized these creatures saw humans as nothing more than food to be consumed. The cold rage that had filled her. As she triggered the demolition charges, the neural scanner captured every nuance of that emotion. The individual human capacity for fury in the face of extinction. The personal choice to fight when fighting seemed pointless. The warrior's pride that preferred death to defeat. One by one, other Marines added their patterns to the broadcast. Commander Tai Hyun-yu contributed his fighter pilot's precision rage, the controlled fury that let him thread his ship through a bioship's internal passages while under fire. General Minho Kim added his infantry officer's protective instinct, the willingness to sacrifice everything for soldiers under his command. I have enough, Dr. Choi announced. Beginning transmission now. The broadcast went out on the same quantum frequencies the Drakari used for their hive mind communication. At first, nothing seemed to change. The bioships continued their coordinated attacks, their living hulls pulsing with organic rhythm. Then something unprecedented happened in the history of the Drakari swarm. Individual bioships began acting independently. The first sign was subtle, a slight delay in coordinated maneuvers as different parts of the hive mind experienced conflicting impulses. But as the human emotional patterns spread through their consciousness, the effects became more dramatic. One bioship suddenly turned its weapons on another, its consciousness overwhelmed by human concepts of individual rivalry and competition. The targeted ship responded with confusion rather than coordination, having never experienced betrayal from within its own species. It's working, Captain Su-Young Lee reported from the Soul's Fury. The enemy formation is breaking up. They're attacking each other. But the most dramatic effect came from the largest bioship, a massive creature that served as a command node for the entire swarm. As human emotions flooded its consciousness, it began to experience something no Drakari had ever felt: doubt. For millions of years, the hive mind had operated with absolute certainty. They consumed other species because that was their nature. They never questioned their purpose or considered alternatives. But human neural patterns introduced concepts that shattered that certainty. The command bioship's consciousness began to fragment as it experienced individual human memories: the protective fury of a parent defending children, the self-sacrifice of soldiers holding impossible positions, the quiet courage of people who chose to help strangers at personal cost. Admiral Park watched her tactical display as the Drakari formation dissolved into chaos. Bioships that had operated with perfect coordination now moved independently, some fleeing the battle while others attacked former allies. "All ships, press the attack," she ordered. "Target the command vessel." While they're distracted, the Earth fleet concentrated its remaining firepower on the massive command bioship. Kinetic rounds and energy weapons struck its hull as the creature thrashed in psychological agony, its hive mind consciousness tearing itself apart with borrowed human emotions. But the most telling attack came from an unexpected source. 3 smaller bioships, their consciousness overwhelmed by human concepts of individual choice and moral responsibility, turned their weapons on the command vessel. They had experienced enough human emotion to question their species' endless consumption of other civilizations. The command ship died under the combined assault, its destruction sending shockwaves through the remaining Drakari forces. Without their central coordination node, the bioships began to scatter like a school of fish that had lost its leader. "Admiral," Dr. Choi reported, "I'm detecting massive neural feedback through their network. The human emotional patterns are spreading to bioships throughout the sector. They're experiencing psychological breakdown on a species-wide level." Park looked at her damage reports. The Earth fleet had lost 37 ships and over 8,000 crew members, but they had broken something that had consumed civilizations for millennia. Not just the Drakari fleet, but their absolute certainty in their right to devour other species. "Status report from all ships," she ordered. The responses came in from across the battle zone. The destroyer Busan's Hammer had rammed a bioship and survived, her crew somehow managing to keep the ship fighting despite massive hull breaches. The battlecruiser Incheon's Guard had taken down 5 bioships in close combat, her Marines clearing each one by boarding action. But it was Captain Lee's report that summarized the battle's true outcome. "Ma'am, the remaining bioships are withdrawing toward the Galactic Rim. They're not retreating, they're fleeing. Some are broadcasting what our translators interpret as distress calls." From her evacuation ship in deep space, Leader Mira of the Velothi people watched the impossible happen. The species that had consumed 17 of her worlds was running from a smaller force of human ships. "Ambassador Kale," she said to her old friend, "what have we witnessed?" Kale studied the tactical displays showing Drakari bioships scattered across the system, many of them damaged beyond repair. "I believe we have seen the moment when predators met apex predators," he replied quietly. The human fleet began rescue operations immediately, their ships moving to assist damaged bioships whose crews were experiencing complete psychological breakdown. Dr. Choi's emotional broadcast had not just disrupted the hive mind, it had given individual Drakari the capacity for guilt, remorse, and moral choice. Some of the bioships requested asylum rather than face their own kind with minds contaminated by human emotions. Others simply shut down their life support systems, their consciousness unable to cope with the weight of individual responsibility for millions of years of genocide. Admiral Park stood on her damaged bridge and composed her after-action report. The Drakari threat to the Velothi people had been eliminated, but the implications went far beyond a single battle. Humanity had proven that sometimes the best response to overwhelming evil was overwhelming violence applied with surgical precision and moral clarity. They had also demonstrated something that would reshape galactic civilization: the power of individual consciousness to triumph over collective certainty. The Deathworlders had kept their promise. Help had arrived, and it came, with teeth. The Drakari bioships came out of the darkness between stars like nightmares made real. Captain Suyung Lee watched them approach through the long-distance sensors of her destroyer, Soul's Fury, and tried to understand what she was seeing. The enemy vessels were alive. Not ships carrying living crews, but actual living creatures changed for space travel. Their hulls moved with organic rhythms, breathing atmosphere through vents that opened and closed like fish gills. Weapon ports looked like mouths filled with rows of crystal teeth. As Lee watched, one of the smaller bioships stretched feeding tubes toward a Velothi mining station and began eating it piece by piece. "Captain, we're getting data from the Velothi Defense Fleet," reported Lieutenant Jisu Nam from the communications station. "They're trying to fight the enemy." On the tactical display, tiny blue dots representing Velothi ships moved toward the much larger red signatures of Drakari vessels. The crystal beings had 12 light cruisers and 47 escort ships. Impressive for a peaceful species, but pathetically small compared to the living fleet they faced. Lee counted 53 Drakari bioships in the first wave, ranging from frigate-sized scouts to massive dreadnoughts that could house entire ecosystems. The largest ones were over 3 kilometers long and still growing as they ate debris from destroyed Velothi installations. Communications. "Patch me through to Admiral Park on the Indomitable Spirit." Admiral Jiwan Park's voice came through clearly, despite the fleet being spread across several light seconds. "Report, Captain Lee." "Ma'am, we're watching the first fight between Velothi and Drakari forces. The enemy ships are unlike anything in our combat databases. They appear to be genetically engineered organisms rather than traditional spacecraft. Can you get closer for detailed scans?" Lee looked at her navigation display. The Soul's Fury was the fastest ship in the Third Fleet, built for scouting and hit-and-run attacks. Her crew had trained for exactly this kind of mission. "Yes, ma'am." "Requesting permission to conduct close-range intelligence gathering." "Granted. Take Commander Taehyun Yu's fighter squadron for escort. Get me everything you can on their weapons, defenses, and movement patterns." The Soul's Fury broke away from the main fleet and accelerated toward the battle zone. Behind her, 12 Earth fighters spread out in defensive formation. Commander Yu's voice came over the tactical channel. "Captain Lee, my pilots are ready. What's our approach?" "Fast and quiet," Lee replied. "We go in at maximum stealth, record everything, and get out before they notice us. I want detailed scans of their biosignatures, weapon systems, and any weak points we can find." As they approached the combat zone, the scope of the destruction became clear. The Velothi had fought bravely, but their ships were designed for peaceful exploration and light defense. Their crystal hulls, beautiful in sunlight, shattered like glass against Drakari bioplasma weapons. Lee watched a Velothi cruiser try to ram a bioship half its size. The crystal vessel hit the organic hull and simply bounced off, its structure cracking from the impact. The bioship responded by wrapping the cruiser in feeding tubes and beginning to eat it, while the crew was still alive inside. "Dear God," whispered Lieutenant Nam. "They're eating them." "Stay focused," Lee ordered. "Record everything. Command needs this data." The Soul's Fury slipped through the battle zone like a ghost, her stealth systems hiding her from Drakari. Sensors. Lee's crew worked with quiet efficiency, their instruments recording every detail of the alien vessels. What they found was both fascinating and terrifying. The bioships were not just alive, they were intelligent. Each one was basically a massive space-dwelling creature that had been changed for warfare. Their weapons grew from special organs. Their shields were adaptive biological membranes, and their hulls healed damage by eating raw matter. "Captain, I'm detecting hive mind communications between enemy vessels," reported Ensign Minho Park from the sensor station. "High-frequency quantum entanglement patterns. They're coordinating their attacks through some kind of biological network." "You saying they share thoughts?" "More than that, ma'am. They share consciousness. Each ship is like a cell in a larger organism. When one learns something, they all learn it instantly." Lee felt a chill run down her spine. Fighting individual enemies was hard enough, but facing an opponent that shared perfect coordination and instant communication was like fighting a single massive entity with dozens of bodies. The last Velothi ship died as they watched. The crystal cruiser Harmony's Light, commanded by Captain Nalavek, made a final desperate attack run against a bioship the size of a small moon. The Velothi weapons managed to burn away sections of organic armor, but the damage healed within minutes as the creature ate debris from nearby asteroid fields. The bioship's response was swift and brutal. A dozen plasma cannons focused fire on the Harmony's Light, and the beautiful crystal ship simply stopped existing. "That's it," Lee said quietly. "The Velothi defense fleet is gone. All ships, prepare to withdraw." "Captain," Commander Yu's voice was tight with anger. "Request permission to engage." Lee understood the feeling. Every human in the squadron wanted to strike back at the creatures that had just killed innocent defenders. But their mission was intelligence gathering, not revenge. "Negative, Commander. We return to the fleet with our data." As they prepared to leave the battle zone, something changed. The bioships, which had been focused on eating Velothi installations, suddenly turned toward empty space. Their sensors had detected something new. "Captain, they're looking at us," Nam reported. "Impossible, we're running full stealth." "Not us, ma'am. The main fleet. Long-range scanners show Admiral Park's fleet dropping out of hyperspace at the system edge." Lee pulled up the tactical display and felt her breath catch. 200 Earth warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapon ports and armor plating. At the center of the formation, the dreadnought Indomitable Spirit broadcast a message to the entire system. "Attention, Drakari forces. You are in violation of Earth protective treaties with the Velothi people. Withdraw immediately or face military action." The bioships responded by turning their full attention toward the human fleet. Lee could see them analyzing the new arrivals, their organic sensors looking for weaknesses. What they found clearly confused them. Unlike Velothi crystal ships or other alien vessels, Earth warships were built like tanks. Thick armor plating covered backup systems, weapon batteries clustered around vital areas. Every ship looked like it was designed to absorb massive damage and keep fighting. But it was the humans' behavior that truly puzzled the hive mind. Other species ran when faced with superior numbers. The Velothi had fought defensively, trying to protect their installations, while keeping casualties low. Even warrior races like the Corvins preferred long-distance fights where honor could be maintained regardless of the outcome. The humans did something different. They accelerated directly toward the bioships. Admiral Park's voice cut through all frequencies, broadcasting in the clear so every species in the galaxy could hear her words. "All ships, battle stations. We are not here to negotiate, we are not here to posture. We are here to destroy every Drakari vessel in this system, weapons free. Engage at will." The Earth fleet opened fire at maximum range with weapons that made the bioships recoil in surprise. While other species used energy weapons that could be absorbed or deflected, humans had perfected kinetic warfare. Tungsten rods accelerated to 20% of light speed, punched through organic armor like it was tissue paper. 3 bioships died in the opening attack. For the first time in their species' existence, the Drakari experienced something they had no name for: fear. Captain Lee watched from her position as the human fleet charged into close combat range, their weapons blazing. The Soul's fury was too far away to participate in the initial engagement, but she could see the results. On her sensors, the bioships used to prey that ran or fought defensively found themselves facing predators. Humans who had learned warfare on a world where everything tried to kill them. Humans who fought not just to survive, but to win. "Commander Yu," Lee said into her communication system. "Forget the escort mission. Form up for attack runs. We're going to war." The small scouting force turned toward the battle, their engines pushing maximum acceleration. Behind them, the Earth Third Fleet engaged the Drakari swarm in the kind of violent, close-range combat that other galactic species only whispered about. The real battle was about to begin. The message from the Velothi reached Earth at 3:47 in the morning. Lieutenant Commander Su-Young Lee was working the night shift at the Deep Space Communications Center when the transmission came through the quantum relay network. She had been drinking her 3rd cup of coffee and reading patrol reports when her screens lit up with priority alerts. The message was in 17 different languages, but the human translation came through first. As Su-young read the desperate plea from Leader Mira, her coffee grew cold. She had been in the Earth Navy for 12 years, ever since humanity joined Galactic Society. She had seen distress calls before, but this was different. This was a species about to die. Within minutes, the message reached Admiral Ji-won Park at Earth Defense Command on Luna Base. Park had been studying reports from the outer colonies when her aide, Captain Taehyun Yu, ran into her office with the urgent transmission. "Admiral, you need to see this right now," Taehyun said, his usually calm voice tight with worry. Park read the message twice, then pulled up tactical displays showing the Velothi area of space. The crystal beings lived nearly 300 light years from Earth, in a region known for peaceful civilizations and trade routes. It was also dangerously close to the galactic edge, where unknown threats sometimes came from the dark spaces between stars. "What do we know about the Drakari?" Park asked. "Very little, ma'am. The name appears in some old council files as a possible threat, a hive mind species that eats other civilizations. Most species thought they were extinct or made up." Park stood and walked to the large display screen showing known galactic territories. Red markers showed human colonies and patrol routes. Blue showed friendly alien territories. The Velothi area appeared as green dots, now surrounded by expanding red zones marking Drakari advances. "Get me General Minho Kim and Dr. Hyunjin Choi," she ordered. "Emergency staff meeting in 10 minutes. The Earth Defense Command meeting room filled quickly. General Kim arrived first, his marine dress uniform crisp despite the early hour. Dr. Choi came next, carrying a tablet loaded with alien biology data about both species involved. Other department heads took their seats as Admiral Park began the briefing. "The situation is simple," Park said, showing the Velothi message. "A peaceful species is being killed by hostile aliens. They've asked for help. The question is, what do we do about it?" "The Galactic Council will handle it," suggested Director Han Min-jun from the Diplomatic Corps. "This is exactly why we have interspecies cooperation treaties. They'll organize a humanitarian response." Dr. Choi shook her head. "The Council doesn't do military responses. They'll debate for weeks while the Velothi die. By the time they approve aid packages, there won't be anyone left to help." "What about other military powers?" asked General Kim. "The Zenthari have a decent navy. The Corvan Empire has warships." "Both have already said no," Park replied. "The Zenthari offered to accept refugees. The Corvans want to buy Velothi art before it's destroyed. Neither will fight the Drakari." The room went quiet. Everyone understood what this meant. In the 50 years since first contact, humanity had learned that they were unique among galactic civilizations. Other species had evolved on safer worlds, where cooperation and talking solved most problems. They built their societies around trade, art, and peaceful living. Earth had taught humanity different lessons. Their homeworld was hostile. Violent weather, natural disasters, predators, diseases, and limited resources that forced constant competition. Humans learned to fight or die. Every major civilization on Earth had developed through warfare, and every technology advance came from military need. "We could send a medical frigate," suggested Admiral Yoon Jae-ho from Fleet Operations. "Show good faith without getting involved in combat." General Kim leaned forward. "With respect, sir, medical ships won't stop the Drakari. The Velothi need weapons, not bandages. They asked for aid, not military action," Director Han pointed out. "We should be careful about appearing too aggressive. Other species already think we're barely civilized." Dr. Choi pulled up her alien biology files. "I've been studying the Drakari references in council files. They're a hive mind that reproduces by eating other civilizations. They literally eat planets and add the matter to their fleet. This isn't a territorial dispute or resource war. It's an extinction event." Admiral Park studied the tactical display showing Drakari movements. According to Velothi reports, the enemy was advancing steadily toward the core worlds. Their bioships moved like living creatures, growing larger as they ate planetary matter. Traditional galactic warfare tactics were useless against something that became stronger with each victory. "How long would it take to organize a response?" she asked General Kim. "The Third War Fleet is doing training exercises in the Sol system. 200 ships, 50,000 Marines, full combat loadout. We could have them in hyperspace within 6 hours. The Council will not approve military action, Director Han warned. Other species will see it as human aggression. Our reputation is already questionable. Park stood and walked to the large display showing human space. Earth was surrounded by colonies, trade routes, and defensive positions built over 5 decades of careful expansion. Humanity had been patient, diplomatic, and restrained. They had followed every rule, respected every treaty, and proven themselves as reliable members of galactic civilization. And now, while they debated proper procedures, an entire species was being eaten by monsters. The Velothi asked for help, Park said quietly. Not paperwork, not committee discussions, not diplomatic protests. Help. She turned to face her staff. General Kim, how long until the Third Fleet can launch? 4 hours if we skip the formal briefings and load while moving. Dr. Choi, what do you need to analyze Drakari combat abilities? Access to Velothi sensor data and any surviving battle recordings. I can work with what we have. Captain Yu, work with fleet operations. I want battle plans for multiple scenarios. Ready before we reach Velothi space. Director Han stood up. Admiral, I must protest. The Galactic Council expects consultation on military actions. Other species will view this as human imperialism. Park looked at him with the expression that had earned her command of the Earth Defense Forces. Director, the Galactic Council, can file their complaints with the Drakari. I'm sure the hive mind will be very interested in their diplomatic concerns. She turned on her command console and began giving orders. All department heads, prepare your sections for immediate deployment. I want supply ships, medical frigates, and support vessels ready to follow the main fleet. This is not a police action. This is war. The room exploded into activity as officers began implementing emergency protocols. Within minutes, alerts were flashing throughout the Sol system as ships broke off from training exercises and headed for Earth. At Luna Base, Admiral Park stood before the main communications array and recorded a message to the Velothi. Her words were simple and direct, the kind of communication humans preferred. Leader Mira, this is Admiral Jiwan Park of the Earth Defense Forces. We have received your call for help. The Third War Fleet is coming to your position. Will arrive in 18 hours. Prepare your people for combat operations and have your fleet ready to work with our forces. Help is coming. As the message transmitted across hundreds of light years, Park turned to General Kim. What's our tactical assessment? Unknown enemy abilities, limited intelligence, no allied support. Kim replied. Classic human odds. Good, Park said with a grim smile. Wouldn't want it to be easy. Outside the Luna Base windows, the Third War Fleet began forming up. Dreadnoughts and battle cruisers took positions at the fleet's center while destroyers and frigates spread out in escort formation. Transport ships loaded with Marines and equipment fell in behind the warships. The fleet that prepared to jump to hyperspace was unlike anything else in galactic civilization. While other species built their ships for exploration, trade, or defense, humans built theirs for war. Every vessel carried weapons designed to destroy rather than disable. Every system was built to keep fighting even when damaged. As the fleet entered hyperspace, Admiral Park thought about what their mission meant. Humanity had spent 50 years proving they were civilized, peaceful, and trustworthy. In 18 hours, they would show the galaxy what Deathworlders did when someone threatened innocent people. The Velothi had asked for aid. They were about to learn that when humans offered help, they brought everything. The crystal city of New Haven sparkled under 2 suns. Kyle walked through the peaceful streets watching children play near the singing fountains. The Velothi people had built their world to be beautiful. Every building made soft music when the wind blew through it. Every street curved like a gentle river. Kyle had lived here for 200 years. He worked as a speaker for his people, talking to other worlds about trade and friendship. The Velothi never fought wars. They solved problems with words and kindness. Their ships carried medicine and art to distant planets, never weapons or soldiers. But that morning, something felt wrong. The first bad news came through the crystal network that connected all Velothi minds. A trading ship had stopped talking. Captain Nara had been flying to the outer worlds when her voice went silent. The network felt empty where her thoughts should be. High Leader Mira called all the important people together. They met in the great crystal hall where decisions were made. Hundreds of Valathi came, their clear bodies glowing with worry. 3 more ships have gone quiet, Mira said. Her old voice shook with fear. The colony on Far Rock is not answering our calls. The research stations on the small moons are silent too. Kyle felt cold inside. The outer colonies had nearly 1 million people. They were farmers, teachers, artists. Good people who wanted quiet lives away from the busy inner worlds. If something bad had happened to them, what could make a whole system go quiet? Asked Science Leader Joran. Broken machines? Solar storms? Our scouts found strange energy readings, Mira answered. Ships we don't know. Big ships. They seem to be eating the planets. The hall went quiet. The word eating made no sense to the Valathi. Their people created things and built things. They healed and grew. The idea of destroying to live was impossible for them to understand. The real answer came 12 hours later. A broken Valathi ship crawled back to the home system. Its crystal hull was cracked and bleeding light. Pilot Tevan was almost dead when they brought him to the healers. His mind was broken, filled with terrible pictures. Ships like living monsters, he whispered as the doctors worked on him. Teeth and claws made of metal. They ate the planets. They ate everything, the colonies, the people, all gone. The medical machines showed burns from weapons the Valathi had no names for. Energy that destroyed instead of healed. Pilot Tevan died 3 hours later, but his memories stayed in the crystal network. The pictures he shared filled every Valathi with terror. Giant creatures swam through space like sharks through water. Their bodies pulsed with life, covered in armor that looked grown, not built. Weapon holes opened like mouths, breathing fire that turned whole cities to ash. Small ships fell from them like seeds, releasing swarms of monsters that ate everything they touched. The Drakari had found the Valathi people. Mira stood before the emergency meeting, her light dim with sadness. We have lost contact with 17 colonies. The outer edge is gone. Our long-distance scanners show the enemy coming toward our home worlds. They will be here in 6 days. What do they want? Asked Defense Leader Cray. The Valathi had a defense leader, but only because other worlds expected it. His job was mostly helping with accidents and working with security guards who had never hurt anyone. They want to eat us, Mira said simply. Our worlds, our people, everything we are. They are a group mind that grows by eating other civilizations. They don't want to talk or trade, they see us only as food. The meeting hall filled with desperate voices. Some called for escape ships, others wanted to hide in deep space until the danger passed. A few brave people mentioned fighting back, but the Valathi had no weapons that could hurt something that ate planets. Kyle stood up slowly. His age gave him respect, and his voice carried across the hall. We must ask for help. From who? Mira asked. The Zenthari said no when we asked for protection. The Corvan Empire thinks we're not important. The Galactic Council gives us sympathy but no ships. Not from our neighbors, Kyle said quietly. From the new members, the ones the others call dangerous. A wave of shock ran through the hall. Every world in galactic space knew about the humans. They had joined the community only 50 years ago, and other races still whispered about them. They came from a world so dangerous that just living there required constant fighting. Their very existence confused the peaceful majority who had evolved in safer places. The Deathworlders, Cray gasped. They are barely civilized. Their first meeting with Galactic Society involved threats and weapon shows. They scare the council members. They scare everyone, Kale agreed. But they also have the strongest military in known space. While we built art centers, they built warships. While we made peace music, they learned the art of destruction. Mira looked around the hall at her people. The Valathi had never begged for anything in their long history. They gave help freely and expected nothing back. Pride was not their weakness, but asking for military help felt like admitting they had failed as a people. The humans will want something back, she said finally. They are a trading species. Everything has a price with them. Then we pay it, Kale replied. Whatever they want, knowledge, resources, territory, it is better than dying. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, the strongest transmitter on New Haven began sending a message across known space. It was simple and direct, translated into every known language, including the harsh sounds of human speech. This is High Leader Mira of the Velothi people. Our worlds are under attack by the Drakari swarm. We have lost 17 colonies. Enemy forces will reach our home system in 4 days. We cannot defend ourselves. We ask any civilized species to send aid, medical ships, transport vessels, anything that can help save our people. We offer full payment for any help. Please help us. The message repeated every hour for 3 days. Answers came from across the galaxy. The Zenthari promised to accept Velothi refugees if they could reach Zenthari space. The Corvan Empire offered to buy Velothi art before the Drakari destroyed it. The Galactic Council scheduled an emergency meeting to discuss humanitarian aid. None of them offered to fight. On the 4th day, as Drakari scouts began entering the outer edges of the home system, a new message arrived. It was short, sent in the clipped tones of human military communications. Velothi people, this is Terran Defense Command. We received your distress call. Help is coming. Admiral Jiwan Park commanding 3rd War Fleet will arrive in 18 hours. Hold your position and prepare for combat operations. Mira stared at the message display. Combat operations? The humans had not asked about payment or talked about deals. They had not requested detailed information about enemy forces or demanded planning meetings. They had simply said help was coming and told the Velothi to prepare for war. What have we done? Cray whispered. We asked for aid, Cal replied, watching the first Drakari bioships appear from hyperspace at the system's edge. Now we find out what kind of help the Deathworlders give. The crystal cities of New Haven continued to sing their peaceful songs, but now the melodies carried a different feeling. Hope mixed with fear as the peaceful Velothi prepared to see something their species had never witnessed, the arrival of warriors who chose to fight instead of run. 3 days after the battle, Admiral Jiwan Park stood in the medical bay of a Drakari bioship that had surrendered rather than flee with the others. The creature was dying, its organic hull bleeding fluids that had no name in any human language, but it was still conscious, still capable of communication. The bioship had been part of the command structure, one of the Queen variants that coordinated swarm operations. Now it lay helpless in space, while human medical teams tried to understand its biology well enough to keep it alive for questioning. Why did you come here? Park asked through the universal translator. She stood in what might have been a control room or might have been an organ chamber. The distinction was meaningless in Drakari biotechnology. The dying Queen ship spoke through sound organs that looked like both speakers and vocal cords. We came to consume, to grow, to spread across the stars as we have always done. And now, the creature paused, its consciousness struggling with concepts that had been forced into its mind through Dr. Hyunjin Choi's emotional broadcast. Now we understand what we have done. The individual voices that screamed as we consumed them, the personal loves and dreams that we devoured without thought. Park studied the alien consciousness that had been part of humanity's greatest enemy just days before. The psychological warfare had worked beyond their wildest expectations, but the results were more complex than anyone had anticipated. What will happen to your people now? Those who fled carry the contamination with them, the Queen ship replied. Your individual emotions, your personal choices. The hive mind is breaking apart as our people experience what you call conscience. Some will try to rebuild the old ways. Others will choose isolation. Many will simply choose death rather than face the weight of what we have done. Dr. Choi entered the chamber carrying her analysis equipment. She had been working around the clock to understand the effects of their psychological attack on the Drakari consciousness. Her findings were both fascinating and troubling. Admiral, I need to report my findings, she said quietly. The emotional broadcast has had permanent effects on the Drakari neural network. They're developing individual consciousness, but they have no cultural framework for handling personal responsibility. Many of them are experiencing what can only be described as species-wide trauma. Park looked at the dying bioship. Are you suffering? Yes, the creature replied without hesitation. But it is a clean pain. For the first time in our existence, we understand the difference between growth and destruction, between survival and murder. Your species has given us something we never wanted but desperately needed. What's that? The ability to choose. The conversation was interrupted by a priority communication from General Minho Kim. Admiral, we have a situation developing in the Velothi system. You need to see this. Park returned to the Indomitable Spirit to find her bridge crew monitoring communications from across the galaxy. The battle at New Haven had been broadcast by the Galactic Council's automatic recording systems, and the footage was spreading through civilized space faster than any news story in history. Species that had considered humans barely civilized, savages watched Earthships charge into close combat with bioships 10 times their size. Diplomats who had dismissed humanity as irrelevant observed human Marines boarding living nightmares to rescue people they had never met. Military strategists studied footage of outnumbered human forces destroying an enemy that had consumed entire sectors of space. Ma'am, Commander Taehyun Yu reported from the communication station. We're receiving priority messages from 17 different species. They're all requesting military assistance against various threats. Park pulled up the tactical display showing human space surrounded by alien territories. For 50 years, humanity had been the new kids on the galactic block, struggling to prove they belonged in civilized society. Now suddenly everyone wanted their help. The Xanthari Confederacy is asking for aid against pirate fleets in the Outer Rim. Yu continued. The Corvan Empire wants us to mediate their border dispute with the hegemony. 3 different species have requested help with what they're calling pest control. Apparently there are other hive mind species out there. And Leader Mira wants to speak with you personally, added Captain Soo-Young Lee, joining the bridge conference. The Velothi are proposing a formal alliance. Park studied the list of requests and felt the weight of galactic expectations settling on humanity's shoulders. Other species had spent millennia building their civilizations around trade, diplomacy, and peaceful coexistence. They were brilliant at solving problems through negotiation and cooperation, but they had no idea what to do when faced with enemies who simply wanted to destroy them. Humans, shaped by their violent homeworld and aggressive history, had different solutions to offer. The meeting with Leader Mira took place aboard the Velothi government ship Harmony's Dream, one of the few vessels that had survived the Drakari assault. The crystal being moved with fluid grace despite the trauma her people had endured, but Park could see the change in her manner. The Velothi had learned that the galaxy was not as safe as they had believed. Admiral Park, Mira began, her translator, giving her voice a musical quality. How do we thank a species that saved us from extinction? No thanks necessary, Leader. We did what anyone should do when innocent people are threatened. But that is the point, Ambassador Kale said. He had aged visibly during the crisis, his crystal form showing stress fractures that would take years to heal. No one else did what you did. The Galactic Council offered sympathy. Other military powers offered to buy our art before we died. Only humanity offered to fight. Park looked out the viewport at the human ships conducting rescue operations throughout the system. Earth medical vessels were treating wounded Velothi while engineering ships began repairing damaged orbital installations. The Third Fleet had taken heavy losses, but her crews worked with quiet efficiency to help the people they had saved. We want to propose a formal military alliance, Leader Mira continued. Not just trade agreements or diplomatic protocols, but a mutual defense pact. The Velothi people place themselves under Earth military protection. And what do you offer in return? Everything we have. Our scientific knowledge, our manufacturing capabilities, our resources. But more than that, our trust. You have shown us that strength can serve justice instead of conquest. Park considered the implications. An alliance with the Velothi would establish humanity as a major power in galactic politics. Other species would have to deal with humans as equals rather than newcomers. But it would also mean taking responsibility for protecting civilizations that couldn't protect themselves. There will be conditions, Park said finally. We're not interested in being hired muscle for anyone's political agenda. If we're going to fight for you, it will be because you're in the right, not because we have a contract. We understand, Mira replied. Your species fights for principle, not profit. That is why we trust you. The formal signing took place 3 days later in the restored crystal chambers of New Haven. Representatives from dozen species attended, some to witness the alliance and others to discuss their own security needs with the Earth delegation. But the most significant moment came when Dr. Choi presented her final report on the Drakari psychological analysis. Standing before the assembled diplomats, she explained how human emotional patterns had disrupted a hive mind that had existed for millions of years. The implications go beyond military tactics, she told the gathering. Individual consciousness, personal choice, moral responsibility. These concepts are foreign to many species in the galaxy. But they may be the key to preventing future conflicts like the Drakari invasion. Ambassador Kale asked the question that was on everyone's minds. Are you saying that human emotions can be weaponized? I'm saying that human values can be shared, Choi replied. The right to make individual choices, the responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves, the courage to fight for strangers. These are not just human traits. They can be learned. Park stood as the formal ceremonies concluded and looked out at the repaired crystal cities of New Haven. The Velothi had begun incorporating memorial gardens into their architecture, remembering the colonies that had been lost to Drakari consumption. But they were also building new defensive installations, working with human engineers to create something the galaxy had never seen. Beautiful cities that could protect themselves. The Third Fleet prepared to return to Earth, but they would not be going alone. Velothi scientists and engineers were accompanying them, eager to learn human military technology and tactical doctrine. More importantly, Velothi philosophers were working with human psychologists to understand how individual consciousness could coexist with cooperative civilization. As her flagship entered hyperspace, Park received a final message from the dying Drakari bioship. The creature had used its remaining strength to broadcast a warning to its scattered people. Do not attack the Deathworlders. Do not threaten those under their protection. They will give you the gift of choice, but they will make you live with the consequences. The message spread through the galactic communication networks, carried by species that had witnessed humanity's response to the Velothi crisis. The battle began the way humanity had learned to fight. Fast, brutal, and without warning. Admiral Jiwan Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit and watched her fleet tear into the Drakari bioships with weapons that had never been tested against living spacecraft. The kinetic rounds punched through organic armor like bullets through flesh, leaving massive wounds that the creatures struggled to heal. Direct hit on Target 7, reported Commander Taehyun Yu from his fighter, Squadron. Bioship is bleeding atmosphere and what looks like blood. The Drakari had expected another defensive battle like they had fought against the Velothi. Instead, they found themselves facing something new in their thousands of years of conquest, predators that hunted in packs. General Minho Kim coordinated the assault from the Marine Command ship Iron Fist. His voice cut through the battle communications as boarding pods launched toward damaged bioships. 1st and 3rd Marine Battalions prepare for hostile environment insertion. These things are alive, so expect them to fight back like wounded animals. Lieutenant Jisoo Nam led her squad of 20 Marines toward a bioship that had been crippled by kinetic strikes. Their boarding pod punched through the creature's hull with shaped charges and cutting beams, and they found themselves inside what could only be described as a living nightmare. The interior walls pulsed with organic rhythms. Fluid that might have been blood flowed through channels carved into the floor. Weapon systems grew from the walls like tumors, tracking the human intruders with senses that had never encountered their species before. Contact front, Nam shouted, as Drakari biosoldiers came out of wall openings. The creatures were a fusion of machine and flesh, their organic bodies enhanced with cybernetic weapons and armor. They moved with hive mind coordination, but their tactics were designed for fighting other civilized species that preferred long-distance combat. The Marines responded with weapons and training that came from humanity's violent history. They advanced through the bioship's corridors using cover and movement tactics learned from 1,000 Earth wars, their assault rifles spitting rounds designed to punch through both metal and bone. "These things don't know how to fight infantry," Nam reported as her squad cleared another compartment. "They're used to ship-to-ship combat. They've never faced borders before." The bio-soldiers tried to adapt, but they were facing something their hive mind could not understand. Humans who fought not just for survival or territory, but for people they had never met. Soldiers who would charge into the belly of a living ship to save civilians on the other side of the galaxy. Above them, the space battle continued with the same ferocity. Captain Suyong Lee brought the Soul's Fury into knife-fighting range with a bioship twice her size, her weapons targeting what Dr. Hyunjin Choi had identified as neural clusters. "If these things are alive, they have brains," Choi had explained during the briefing. "Destroy the brain, kill the ship." Lee's crew worked with the precision of a surgical team and the aggression of wolves. They slipped under the bioship's main weapons and began systematically destroying its sensory organs. Pulse lasers burned out optical clusters, while kinetic rounds shattered what looked like organic computer cores. The bioship thrashed like a wounded whale, its massive bulk twisting as it tried to bring weapons to bear on the small destroyer. But Lee had learned her tactics fighting pirates in the outer colonies, where survival meant being faster and meaner than anything else in space. "Target the feeding tubes," she ordered. "If it can't eat, it can't heal." The Soul's Fury's weapons carved away the bioship's ability to consume matter and repair damage. Within minutes, the massive creature was bleeding atmosphere and biological fluids from dozens of wounds that refused to close. Across the battle zone, similar scenes played out as human ships engaged bioships in ways the Drakari had never experienced. While other galactic species fought from a distance with energy weapons that could be adapted to or absorbed, humans closed to point-blank range with kinetic weapons that simply punched holes in things. Commander Yu led his fighter squadron through the interior passages of a bioship the size of a city, his small craft weaving between organic support structures and weapons clusters. His pilots followed flight patterns learned from atmospheric combat, using the bioship's own bulk as cover while they targeted vital systems. "Phoenix Leader to Phoenix Squadron," Yu broadcast. "These things have circulatory systems. Find the main arteries and cut them." The fighters spread out through the bioship's interior, their weapons seeking the major fluid channels that kept the creature alive. It was like performing surgery with explosives, and the Earth pilots were very good at surgery. But the Drakari were not helpless. They began to adapt, their hive mind processing human tactics and developing countermeasures. Bioships started operating in coordinated groups, using their numerical advantage to surround individual Earth vessels. The battlecruiser Daegu's Pride found itself facing 5 bioships simultaneously, their combined firepower overwhelming her shields and armor. Captain Jin Wuhan watched his damage reports climb as organic plasma weapons burned through his hull plating. "Sir, we're taking heavy casualties," his executive officer reported. "Engineering Deck 3 is gone, and we're losing life support on the forward sections." Han looked at his tactical display and made the kind of decision that separated human commanders from their galactic counterparts. Instead of withdrawing to repair his ship, he ordered maximum acceleration toward the largest bioship. "All hands prepare for ramming speed. We're going to show these things how Earth ships die." The Daegu's Pride accelerated to maximum velocity and struck the bioship amidships, her reinforced prow punching deep into the creature's vital organs. Both vessels died in the collision, but the bioship's death throes damaged 2 more enemy ships and disrupted their coordinated attack. Admiral Park watched the sacrifice and felt the familiar cold rage that came from losing good people. The Drakari might have numerical superiority, but they had made a critical mistake. They had started a war with humans. "All ships, concentrate fire on damaged targets," she ordered. "Don't let them heal. Dr. Choi, what's our assessment of their regeneration capabilities?" Dr. Choi's voice came from the science station where she was analyzing battle data in real time. "They can heal from almost any damage if given time and raw materials, But if we can destroy their neural clusters or major organs, they die just like any other living thing. Then we kill them faster than they can heal. The Earth fleet changed tactics, focusing their combined firepower on individual bioships rather than spreading damage across multiple targets. The results were immediate and devastating. Bioships that might have survived individual attacks found themselves facing the concentrated fire of entire squadrons. One by one, the living nightmares began to die, but the cost was high. The humans had lost 12 ships and nearly 3,000 crew members. The bioships, despite their losses, still outnumbered the Earth fleet by more than 2 to 1. In the marine boarding actions, Lieutenant Nam and her squad had fought their way to what appeared to be the bioship's command center, a vast organic chamber filled with neural networks and sensory organs. In the center, connected to the ship by thousands of biological cables, was something that might once have been a Drakari individual, but was now a living component of the hive mind. "Lieutenant, we've found their control center," she reported. "It's like a brain connected to the entire ship." "Can you destroy it?" General Kim asked. Nam looked around the chamber, noting the pulsing neural networks and the creature at the center that seemed to be watching them with too many eyes. "Yes, sir, but I think it wants to talk first." The thing that had once been Drakari spoke in a voice that came from speakers grown into the walls. Its words were translated by the Marine Squad's universal translators, but the meaning was clear enough. "You fight like no species we have consumed. You come to our feeding grounds and make war instead of fleeing. Why do you protect these crystal singers who are not your kind?" Nam looked at the creature and gave the answer that would be repeated in human military academies for centuries to come. Because someone has to. She triggered her demolition charges, and the bioship's brain center vanished in expanding fire. The massive creature went limp, its weapons falling silent as its consciousness died. Around the battle zone, the tide was turning. The Drakari had superior numbers, but they were learning that numbers meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. The humans had come to do a job, and they were very good at their work.